Hello, everybody. This is James Proctor joining you once again. I would like to thank those who listened and provided feedback to my last podcast titled Mentors, inspired by Brene Brown's book, Gifts of Imperfection. I just want to bring you another segment inspired by the book, The Hollywood Commandments by Devon Franklin. Which I'm going to get into shortly. But again, I just want to thank everybody who listened, provided feedback. I took your feedback and I'm applying it now as we speak. And I hope you enjoy this next podcast. So part of the feedback I got is to just explain a little bit of why I'm doing this and even share what the theme that I created for the podcast. So I started this podcast because I shared a little bit of this in the first one. I love reading books, and I wanted to find a way to share the wisdom that I get from the books that I'm reading, as I did with the quotes in the last one, and just share them with my friends, family, anybody who if you're a friend, family member of mine, and you want to pass it along to someone, please feel free to do so. Just to encourage people, give some people some empowerment for whatever it is that they are navigating through right now. The theme of the podcast is faith, books, and shoes. So faith, because faith frees me from fear, envy, which frees up my destiny, frees me to pursue my destiny freely and passionately. Books over the time has been my coping mechanism, how I regulate and just free my mind of any negative thoughts. But I also figured out that books fuels my purpose, which is to empower and encourage people. Shoes, because shoes represents my strive to success and excellence. When I think of shoes and the men that I grew up admiring, they were sharp dresses with the sharp, shiny shoes. So it always represented success and excellence. So part of the shoes part of this podcast is just my strive for success, strive for excellence, and being the best that I could be. So with that being said, I just want to, before I get into the quotes from the book, the Hollywood Commandments, I just want to speak a little bit about my experience with the author prior to choosing to read this book. So Devon Franklin is the author of this book. Devon Franklin is a minister who is also a Hollywood executive. I was first introduced to Devon Franklin when he was speaking on Oprah. It was one, I'm not sure if it was one of the Super Soul Sundays, or it was a conversation with Oprah, and he was just sharing his testimony about how, he grew up in the church and was very dedicated to the church, but he knew he had the gift of speaking and preaching the word of God, but he was drawn to Hollywood, and how people in the church would tell him like Hollywood is full of sinners and all these negative things about Hollywood, but he was saying that his faith didn't teach fear, so that him going into Hollywood, he wouldn't conform to the ways of how Hollywood is, but he can possibly transform Hollywood and create images of inspiration and images that promotes his faith. That just spoke so loudly to me, because as I think of where it is that I want, what my goals is, what my aspiration is, yes, I have faith. Faith is something that is very important to me, my relationship with God, as I shared before. But as I seek to make an impact in the world, it's not necessarily, I don't see it as just solely in the church, to be honest with you. Church is very important to me. I go to church every Sunday, but I see myself making an impact somewhere similar to Devon, that maybe not your, I guess, I don't want to say typical, but maybe it's not the traditional way of doing things. So his his interview just spoke to me, especially in the time when I was in a dark place. So Devon Franklin is someone he describes in the book about a visual mentor. Someone who you may never meet, but when you see them, they inspire you, and he is definitely someone who does that for me. His testimony, as I shared, and just what he represents from afar, from what I can see, inspires me, and is part of what is inspiring me to do this. So that was my introduction to Devon Franklin, and ever since then, I've just been on this journey to figure out exactly what it is and what my place is to make an impact in the world. So as we get into the quotes of the book, again, the name of the book is The Hollywood Commandments. And just a little bit about the book is Devon Franklin's, again, his faith that has navigated him in Hollywood. He came up with these commandments, so to speak, of how to live a spiritual life in a secular world. And he gives these principles. I'm not going to really go through the commandments. I'm just going to go through some quotes that jumped out at me and that spoke to me. And I'm just going to share them with you, maybe expand on them and share what they meant to me. And if I have some, examples that I can give you personally, I'm going to share those with you as well. So the first quote that Devon Franklin shares is, "The world does not give up what you want easily. It gives it up grudgingly." So, it speaks for itself. Grudgingly is defined as in reluctant to or in a resentful manner. So, when I read this quote, I just thought about it, how, we all have goals, aspirations, things that we want in life. And in pursuit of those, there will be roadblocks. You always hear that, the universe, for the most part, likes to help you get to it. As you're pursuing your goals, the universe will provide what you need, which is all good and partly true. But then there's another side that things happen. And, sometimes there are these roadblocks that will get in your way and deter you and just make you maybe change directions unexpectedly, and sometimes you have no choice. So when Devon Franklin brings up this quote that the world does not give up what you want easily, it's just pretty much him saying to persevere and get through what it is that's stopping you right now. If you're facing a roadblock in this very moment, maybe something that's pressing you to maybe compromise your values, or time constraints, or just not enough time to get what it is that you need to get done. That's a roadblock. That's that grudge. Something holding you back. And I just say and encourage you to persevere through that and just keep going. Keep that passion for what it is you want and go for it. Devon Franklin, in the next quote, he says, "Faith with works is life." So in the Bible, this famous quote that you hear, "Faith without works is dead." But he flips it and say, "Faith with works is life." Something going back to the last podcast that Brene Brown said is, do not what the world needs, but do what makes you come alive. And I think faith, as I shared in the beginning with the theme of this, is something that frees you from whatever it is that's holding you back, or maybe that is the roadblock that sets you back. Faith gives you that energy, but then is the work that you put into whatever you're pursuing that gives you life. Like that's what, faith is one thing. Faith can give you the idea, like, okay, you know what, I can do this. But it's the actual work. It's me waking up again, 5 a.m, just feeling like, okay, I'm gonna get through this. But it's me being in this, actually speaking, that's giving me life, and hopefully giving you life as I speak to you. Next, Devon says, "Pray and prepare. God won't just give you results you want, but he will give you the discipline and strength to eventually get the results. So that pretty much correlates to what I just said. Something that I do and what I did prior to speaking. I was listening to my gospel music and just preparing, have some notes. One of the feedback that I got is, you sounded a little nervous on the last one. Maybe write down some notes to help you transition better or help you feel more comfortable speaking. So that's what I did. I have my notes here, have everything set up. I'm in a more secluded room. Hopefully there's no distraction, extra noise or anything like that, so I could just fully focus. But what I noticed is I started to get nervous, right? So even after all the preparing and meditating and praying, like, okay, I'm going to do this, I had this nervous energy. And I've graduated to the point, sidebar, I graduated to the point where I'm reading multiple books at once. So a audio book that I'm listening to is Angie Martinez's book, The Voice. If you don't know who Angie Martinez is, she's a hip hop radio personality, and she wrote a book recently called The Voice. And in her book, she talks about nervous energy right before she would get on the radio or do something big. It's like this nervous energy that will kind of come on her. So that kind of relates to what I was feeling prior to doing this segment, is this nervous energy. It's like, man, okay, I'm prepared, I'm prayed up, I've been meditating, I got this. I had these notes for a while now. Why am I nervous? But sometimes you just can't help it. Nervous energy come. So I have the discipline, I have the strength to get things done, but I have to actually do it now. So what I've learned to do is, just go for it. I use the energy. Okay, first I do as I acknowledge that I'm feeling this nervousness, and now that I got it, okay, what I'm gonna do with it? I'm gonna draw from the inspiration of the last podcast. I'm gonna draw from, who I know my audience is, which is currently my family and friends, and I'm just gonna start speaking. That's what God gave me to do, to speak and to encourage people. So that's what I'm gonna do. So as I'm doing that, I'm the discipline and the notes that I have, now that stuff becomes my aid. Once I just step out and start speaking, now I can refer to the notes and flow. So hopefully my flow is a little better on this podcast, and my transitions are better, as I shared was one of the feedbacks that I have. The next quote is, "It's important to look at setbacks with a spiritual perspective. Speak about not getting..." Excuse me. That's one of my notes. So, yeah. So, again, I'm going to say the quote again. "It's important to look at setbacks with a spiritual perspective." So, I put on a note right by this quote to speak about an experience that I had, that I needed to look at a setback in a spiritual way. So, this past summer, I was applying to jobs, and I seen a position. Well, no, not this past summer. Shortly right before the summer, I seen a position that I was qualified for. It was at my former institution, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is perfect. Maybe this is in line. I always wanted to get back upstate. Prior to working downstate, where I was at recently, I was upstate. I graduated from Buffalo State College, and shortly after I graduated, ended up working in a financial aid office there. And I love being upstate, love the job, love the people. But he who finds a wife finds a good thing. I found my wife, and I knew she was my wife very soon. So she was moving downstate from my hometown. So, in order to make that work, and other things going on at the time as well, my father just shortly passing, I was being pushed to go downstate. So a position opened up downstate in the Bronx, so I ended up leaving my job in Buffalo State to go to SUNY Maritime. So I've been at Maritime for like 3 years. So a position, now back to the story, the position opened up at Buffalo State. So I applied for it. I'm like, oh, okay, this is mine. I'm gonna get it. I know the people. I've built all these great experiences here at Maritime. Went on the interview. Everything felt good. Came back. I just had to wait for a call. So call didn't come. I still didn't get nervous. I know how these things go. But then I finally seen the email that said that they went with another candidate, and it crushed me a little bit because I thought I would really be a strong candidate for the position. Again, I had great experiences. I've grown from the last time I've been there. I felt I did pretty good in the interview, but nonetheless, it was a candidate that was better than me. So just having that setback was like, man, like, am I not good enough? Or, I started to have a lot of negative thoughts, and it wasn't until I had to sit back and say, you know what? Maybe that just wasn't for you. You thought it was, but maybe there's something out there that's specifically for you. And just speaking about it now, being able to have the opportunity and be in a space to do ultimately what I do love to do, which is this, to speak and encourage people. Right now I'm being given the space to do that, and maybe had I taken that job during that time frame, I may not have had that space. Or even something even more specific, my son was in the process of being born. My wife was still pregnant and literally about to give birth in the next month, and because I didn't take that position, I was able to stay where I was at. And because of the new law change in New York, I was able to stay home with him for 6 weeks, her and him for 6 weeks. That's something that had I started a new job, I wouldn't be able to do that. So, everything works for the good. So it was meant for me to not leave that position, in which I eventually ended up leaving anyway. But now is a better time for me to leave. And again, I have the space to do what I love to do, and I'm very grateful for that. So I say that to say it's important to look at the setbacks with a spiritual perspective. It's my spiritual perspective that allowed me not to let those negative thoughts creep in, and focus on the positive and what I actually am gaining from, maybe not getting a result that I wanted. So Devon also speaks in the book. He says, your talent is God's gift to you. What you do with it is your gift back to God. So when I think about that, I just think, I think people are, for the most part, they understand this and they would agree with this. It's just finding what your talent is. I remember being in a place where it's like, what is my purpose? What am I good at? I spoke in the last podcast that I would envy or be a little jealous, if I'm being honest, of people who would be able to come in a room and just be that social person and be able to speak to everybody, light up a room with their ability to just be so social, where me, I'm an introvert. I'm the person watching everybody. So I would be a little jealous of those people. And it's like, man, what is my talent? Or I don't have no talent. Or, even sometimes to if I'm being extreme, like feeling a little worthless. Like, if I'm not like that, maybe I have no purpose. And where, like, those negative thoughts can creep in. So I think the question here is, how do you find your talent, and what is your talent? And then once you do that, is pursuing it and putting in the work, putting in the hours and the time and the discipline to I guess sharpen that tool, that talent, that special thing that God has given you that lights you up. And I guess to find that is what do you like? What do you love? What do you do? What can you do for free? Right now I'm not getting paid to do this, but I love to do it. This right here can wake me up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, just to get up and talk. And if no one listens, I'll play it back to myself and listen and motivate myself. So what is it that, gives you that? What do you desire like that? What is that thing that can get you up in the morning and you would do without getting paid? And what is it that it comes natural to you? Like, this is, it feels natural to do this. And even if I'm not the greatest at it right now, just the pursuit also feels as natural. Just taking the feedback and applying it right away, and having that positive energy after I do this, it just feels natural. It feels like a talent. So my question to you would be to just reflect on what it is that could wake you up in the morning, or what is it that gets you going, and how can you sharpen it so that when you bring it back to God, God is pleased. Oh, and one thing with this, so once you figure all this out, Devon Franklin says that confidence is a fragrance everyone wants to smell. So true, so true. That social person, like I said, that could come in a room, speak to everybody, light up a room, know everybody, and everybody's looking eyes on that person, right? It's something about that person that everybody's drawn to is that confidence. So I think part of it too is with your talent. Once you sharpen and you put the discipline and the work in it, people can see that confidence, hear that confidence, and would like to mirror it. Like, I like the use of the fragrance that everyone wants to smell. Everyone wants to get close to the confident person who is doing things that are also morally right. There's some confident people that can fly off the handle, but confident, for the most part, those confident speakers, those confident, whatever, they're not even speaking. Whatever you do, if you do it with confidence, people are drawn to it. People wants to be close to it. People wants to smell it. They wanna mirror it. They wanna be that confident person themselves. Devon also speaks of, he says, if we don't believe in ourselves, we diminish the power by which we were created. So him being a minister, this is more of like I'll say, biblical reference where he talks about it. According to the Bible, God says that we are created in the image of God, or in His likeness. So we are, in other words, we are born, or God plants confidence in us. He's put these tools in us. So it's the world, and going back to that first point about the world not just giving things up easily, but giving it up grudgingly, it's the world and our experiences that pretty much makes us doubt. The setbacks that we have gone through, or even people who have so negative thoughts and told us, no, you're not good enough, and no, you're not going to be anything, or no, it's people who planted these seeds. It's images that planted these seeds that make us not believe in ourselves and make us have this doubt. But when we think about the purpose in which we were not made to be doubtful. Yes, doubt will come, but we're not made to stay there. It's when I stayed in a fearful place, stayed in a doubtful place, that ultimately made me in a dark place. It made me not want to pursue anything. It made me just want to lay in bed and watch TV all day and be depressed. But when I think of, being made on purpose, with a purpose, for a purpose, it gets me up. It makes me want to pursue what it is that I'm supposed to be doing that much more, and with that much more discipline and that much more confidence, and makes me want to that goal of speaking. As I shared, Devon Franklin, another reason why I admire Devon so much, and just his example, really resonated with me, is because one of my goals is to write a book and speak to Oprah. So in order to pursue a goal of that magnitude, I have to put in the work, and I can't allow any doubt, anybody who's saying, oh, that's crazy, like, you're not going to be able to do that, you're not even a great writer, like, you don't have no published works now. No, I don't care. I'm somehow, some way, I'm going to keep pursuing it, and if that doesn't happen, that, something else, God may have something else for me. I really like this quote because it's something that I do have to remind myself, and it also keeps me grounded. So the quote is, remember who's watching. Right now, someone is watching you and evaluating how you adhere to your convictions. Do a check of your hypocrisy in your life. So, I'm talking about all this confidence and being stand up person for your purpose and all that, but so I have mentors who I admired, who I made sure I watched them when they may have not known that I was watching, and I watched how they navigated and maybe went about their business or their mission and what it is they're pursuing. So I watched them to see if the advice that they was giving me, they were applying in their own life. And, the best example is the person themselves and how they live, not only the words that they speak to me. So when I mentor people, and I'm thinking of two people specifically, just one who sent me something that he was working on, and I gave him some feedback, like, this is good, but this is okay. You got some potential, but you gotta sharpen your tools. You gotta study some more, and really put in the work to make your craft that much better. So me saying that, I have to come back and show him that I'm doing the same thing, or he's going to look at me like I'm a hypocrite and won't take my advice no more, or take my advice with a grain of salt, but it's like, hey, you telling me all of this, but you're not doing it yourself. So, just that thought is something that keeps me grounded. It keeps me more focused on making sure that I'm putting out my best product and I'm walking in how I talk it. So as I close, I want to leave you. So after reading this book, and I read it actually during the time I was on paternity leave with my son and my wife. After I read this book, a quote came to me that I want to share with you as I close. So now we transitioning from Devon's quotes and from his book to a quote that I was inspired to write and that I shared with some friends from reading the book. And pretty much is, no matter how many setbacks, no matter what people do to stand in your way, what you are destined to do has your fingerprints on it. Only your specific gift can produce your destiny's true impact. The good news is that there is absolutely nothing anyone can do to permanently block the fulfillment of your destiny. It's only a matter of proper preparation and God's perfect timing. I want to leave you with that. And I want to say that last part again. It's only a matter of proper preparation and God's perfect timing. There will be setbacks. There will be things that get in your way. But your fingerprints, what you're destined to, has your fingerprints on it. It means only you can do it. Only your talent, only your ability will produce the fulfillment, what it truly meant to be. Only your talent, only your gifts will produce that destiny. Thank you very much for listening. Once again, if you have any feedback, please text me, email me, call me, let me know, and I'll be glad to apply that to the next podcast. I left you last time with a challenge. I'm going to leave you this time with a challenge, and that's simply to just meditate, pray, and reflect on what it is, where you are right now in life, and are you moving towards your destiny? Are you in a place where you're set back? Are you in a place where you don't know quite what your talent, what your gift is? I just want you to take some time to meditate, pray, reflect on what that is and go for it, because it's only a matter of proper preparation and God's perfect timing.